You bought a home in Burnaby, you saved every penny, and you thought you were safe. You believed in the stability of this city, the promise of Metro Vancouver, and the dream of building a life here. But what if I told you that a multi-billion-dollar fight, happening right now in cold, distant government offices, is already wiping out your hard-earned property value? This isn't about the fluctuating daily interest rates you nervously track. This is about a monumental, existential battle over Canada's energy future, and it's manifesting as a hidden economic bomb running directly beneath your quiet, tree-lined street. This isn't an abstract policy debate, it's a direct threat to your family's financial security, your retirement plans, and the entire dream you bought into. Burnaby, the seemingly prosperous heart of the region, has been made a hostage. The issue centers on an invisible, powerful thread of steel and oil, the Trans Mountain Pipeline, a monstrous piece of infrastructure that has tethered your home's value to the most volatile industry on the planet. This political decision, made far from any open public forum, isn't just about resource export. It could single-handedly turn your largest asset into a desperate liability, potentially leading to a ghost town of unsold units and cratering equity. This is the untold story of how the fate of Canada's energy system became a high-stakes, deeply personal crisis for every single homeowner and ambitious first-time buyer in Burnaby. The stakes are everything. Don't just watch your future disappear, fight back with knowledge. Right now, decisions are being made that will affect your mortgage, your retirement, and your family's future for the next 50 years. Most news outlets will give you the boring, sanitized government press release. But if you want the raw, unfiltered truth about the shocking stories affecting your life and your money, the stories they don't want you to hear, then you need to be here. We break down the complicated, dense political maneuvers and turn them into the powerful facts you need to know to protect yourself. Don't be left in the dark when your equity is on the line. Hit that subscribe button right now and the notification bell. Tap subscribe and let's keep digging into this hidden, dangerous truth. The genuine crisis isn't a vague economic slump, it's a structural, physical danger that arrived when the $34 billion Trans Mountain Expansion Project, TMEP, became fully operational in May 2024. For years, this was pitched as a national triumph, a guarantee of prosperity, generating $13.6 billion in revenue during its first year of operation, and supporting the equivalent of 36,000 full-time jobs across the region. But for Burnaby residents, this project has been a double-edged sword, a dangerous anchor. What they didn't scream from the rooftops is that the pipeline is an invisible economic engine that literally runs directly under their neighborhoods to the Westridge Marine Terminal. The psychological impact of this invisible line is profound. It means your home's security is no longer just tied to local supply and demand, it's linked to the global price of crude oil, international trade disputes, and the political climate of two warring provincial governments. When the TMEP went live, it injected massive confidence into the local economy, stabilizing and even boosting property values by guaranteeing thousands of high-paying operational and logistical jobs. According to Statistics Canada data, the sheer volume of pipeline movements from Alberta to BC increased more than five-fold, a terrifying surge of 449.9% in 1 year. This isn't just infrastructure, it's a behemoth creating sustained construction and permanent operational employment that fuels the mortgage market. The terminal itself acts continuously, supporting hundreds of direct jobs and thousands more in related sectors like security, maintenance, and professional services, all concentrating massive wealth and purchasing power right here in Burnaby. Now, that same concentration of economic power has turned into a massive, concentrated liability. The moment that economic engine sputters, the moment the invisible thread snaps, Burnaby's housing market will feel the brunt of the shock wave, making this industrial connection the most critical, yet least understood, risk factor for every homeowner in the city. Just when Burnaby thought it had absorbed the trauma of the first pipeline, a shocking, aggressive escalation was unveiled, a new pipeline proposal from the government of Alberta. This wasn't a casual mention, it was a formal commitment of $14 million to lead a technical advisory group, studying routes for a new bitumen pipeline to the BC northwest coast. This proposed pipeline would carry 1 million barrels per day, substantially larger than the already massive expanded Trans Mountain system. This news sent immediate, icy shockwaves through the political and economic landscape. Alberta's motivation is clear and relentless. Their oil production is projected to double by 2035, and they need to secure a guaranteed export route to diversify markets beyond the United States. For them, this new pipeline is an absolute necessity, a non-negotiable insurance policy. The urgency is amplified by market consultancy RBN Energy, who projected that without this additional capacity, Western Canada's entire oil sector could face severe, career-killing constraints as early as mid-2027. This timeline is not abstract. It's a hard deadline that pits two levels of government against each other in a desperate game of chicken. The threat is not just theoretical, it introduces regulatory uncertainty, environmental risk, and political friction, all of which act as poison for real estate investors. The proposed pipeline represents a dramatic doubling down on an energy future that BC, publicly at least, is trying to transition away from. It frames Burnaby, already hosting the largest terminal, as a target for even more industrialization or, worse, a site of prolonged, acrimonious political deadlock that will choke off investment for years to come. This new proposal isn't about economic growth, it's about an escalation of risk that directly threatens the fragile equilibrium of Burnaby's home values. While policymakers argue in private meetings, the devastating effects of this infrastructure uncertainty are already manifest in a hidden crisis on the streets of Burnaby, a quiet, terrifying collapse of local housing prices. This isn't just regional cooling, this is the fear of political and economic instability translating directly into lost equity. Look at the data. In just 1 year, the median condo price in a major hub like Brentwood plummeted by 13.2% to $683,000. That is not a healthy correction. That is a deep, systemic wound that is eroding confidence, hitting first-time buyers and recent investors the hardest. The physical evidence of this crisis is everywhere. Across the key high-density areas of Metrotown, Brentwood, and Deer Lake, over 1,700 newly built condos are sitting empty, unsold, creating an inventory glut that screams of disaster. Imagine a high-rise tower, full of potential homes, standing as a symbol of economic anxiety. This oversupply is a direct result of market participants retreating, spooked by the political infighting and the uncertainty of energy infrastructure decisions that underpin regional employment. Builders are pausing projects, investors are cashing out, and potential buyers are waiting for the bottom, all because the market has lost its fundamental belief in Burnaby's future trajectory. The energy dilemma adds one more toxic variable to an already complex mix of high interest rates and construction costs, but it's arguably the most potent. If the economic engine that requires thousands of high-earning workers to fuel housing demand becomes unreliable, these empty condos won't just sit, they will start a race to the bottom, destroying the equity of everyone who bought at the peak. This is the human cost of the pipeline war. Faced with Alberta's aggressive, non-negotiable demand for a massive new pipeline, the BC government played a risky hand by offering a political half-measure, a move that has only increased anxiety. They announced strong support for merely optimizing the existing Trans Mountain system, rather than building an entirely new one. This strategy, budgeted at approximately $4 billion, would increase the existing capacity by only about 360,000 barrels per day. On the surface, it sounds responsible, it's cheaper, faster, and aligns with their stated climate goals by avoiding a giant new carbon commitment. But for the energy industry and for the homeowners whose fortunes depend on that industry, this looks like a cheap stall tactic. The 360,000 barrels per day is a fraction of the 1 million barrels Alberta is demanding, meaning this optimization is a temporary fix, not a permanent solution. The BC government's position reflects a profound tension. They cite legitimate environmental concerns and question the feasibility of private investors committing capital to a volatile sector. This is code for, we don't want this project, but we can't afford to completely alienate the federal government or the energy economy. By embracing this optimization, they are forcing Burnaby to live with the existing risks while simultaneously rejecting the long-term economic stability the industry claims the new pipeline would bring. The consequence is perpetual, low-grade instability. This decision has intensified the fear that the provincial government is prioritizing its global climate image over the immediate, tangible need for employment stability and economic predictability in Metro Vancouver, turning Burnaby into a reluctant martyr in the global climate fight. To understand why your home value is at risk, you have to follow the dark money trail that actually drives the Burnaby real estate market. It's not just tech workers, it's the high-paid workforce supported by the energy sector. This is the lifeblood of the local housing market's purchasing power. The average Trans Mountain and related energy sector workers earn substantial salaries, often ranging from $80,000 to $120,000 annually. These salaries aren't just comfortable, they are critical because they represent the only income levels that can reliably qualify for the massive mortgages needed to afford the city's housing stock. This relationship is documented, straightforward, and absolutely terrifying. If the energy sector grows, these high-earning individuals migrate here, increasing competition and driving prices up. Conversely, if the provincial government's decisions cause the sector to stagnate or decline, if investors decide BC is too hostile, those workers won't just stop arriving, they will start leaving. The demand for housing will not just soften, it will experience a sudden, devastating contraction. This is where the emotional betrayal lies. Your financial security is tied to whether an industrial worker maintains their six-figure salary, which is itself tied to a political decision made thousands of miles away. Institutional investors and real estate investment trusts, REITs, are already allocating capital based on this geopolitical risk assessment. When those funds pull back due to regulatory unpredictability, the flow of development money stops. For Burnaby buyers, changes in energy sector stability can even affect mortgage market conditions, as major Canadian banks adjust their portfolio risk. This means even strong borrowers could face tougher down payment requirements and tighter income verification. The market is literally tightening its grip because of the pipeline risk. Burnaby is trapped in a zero-sum game with no easy escape. The dilemma is stark. On one side, you have the tangible, measurable economic force of $13.6 billion in economic activity supporting thousands of livelihoods. On the other, you have the profound, non-negotiable responsibility of meeting climate commitments, emphasized by climate scientists and environmental organizations who argue new infrastructure is an existential contradiction. The emotional weight of this conflict is crushing the housing market. The unfortunate truth for homeowners is that this political friction, this profound lack of certainty, is the worst outcome of all. Economic development advocates are correct. Their jobs support families and fund public services. Dismissing them ignores real impacts on prosperity. Environmental advocates are also correct. Ignoring climate risks is existential irresponsibility. The policy choices involve trade-offs, but the delay and the disagreement create the greatest threat to real estate. The situation is incredibly fluid. Policy discussions are ongoing, industry is lobbying fiercely, and public opinion is divided, with polls showing support for the pipeline but also a growing prioritization of economic growth over environment. All of these competing forces are pulling Burnaby in different directions, ensuring its economic trajectory, and by extension its housing market dynamics, remains a terrifying guess. The crisis hitting Burnaby isn't an isolated event, it's a chilling glimpse into the larger, destructive pattern already reshaping Metro Vancouver's real estate. The question isn't whether your home value will be impacted. The terrifying question is, how much are you prepared to lose before the politicians finally choose a side? The uncomfortable truth is this: the people who will ultimately suffer the most are the homeowners and hopeful buyers who believed the system was stable and predictable. We just uncovered how this pipeline drama is directly connected to the price and inventory crash in Burnaby. But the crisis, driven by regional uncertainty, is already spreading and manifesting in bizarre ways. We investigated how the neighboring city of Richmond saw home sales drop by a dramatic 29% in Q2 2025, yet, in a paradoxical twist, prices somehow remain stubbornly elevated at $2.1 million. To understand how that market is adjusting, where demand vanished but prices didn't, and what that chilling phenomenon means for the rest of Metro Vancouver, watch that video right now. Thanks for watching.